Daf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, 5 lines from the top. Ton Rabbanon Oisa Shana Shemeis B'Shemin Tzaddik, the year in which Shemin Tzaddik was to die. Omer Lahem, he said to the people, B'Shanazu Humeis, he said that he's going to die this year. Omer Loi, they said to him, how do you know that? Omer Lahem, he said to them, B'chol Yom Kippur, on every Yom Kippur, every other Yom Kippur, in the past, on Yom Kippur, every Yom Kippur, I was greeted when I went to the Kodesh Kadoshim by an elderly person who was wearing white and wrapped around his head with white. The Teis Lishonim says that is a reference, signifies the Shechina, the presence of the Rebbeinu Shalom, the whiteness around him and surrounding him. That was the whiteness of the Rebbeinu Shalom, the image, the glow of Rebbeinu Shalom, Hashras HaShechina. He would enter with me into the Kodesh Kodashim and leave with me. But this Yom Kippur, he said, I was greeted by a Zaken Echad Lovish Chayrim, dressed in black, Vatav Shchayrim, and his head wrapped in black. He went in with me, but he did not leave with me. So that was a siman that of the misa, the death that was to come. Achar regel, after Yom Tov, after Sukkot, Chol Shiva Yomim v'Meis. He was sick for 7 days and he died. And from then on, the Kohanim did not say the Birchas Kohanim with the Shem Meforish. They didn't use the Shem Meforish with the Birchas Kohanim. Taisus in Saita explains that that the mentioning of Hashem's name, the Shem Meforish, should only be where in the Hashras Shechina. So it would be in the Beis HaMikdash. However, after the Misa of Shemin Tzaddik, there wasn't the Hashras Shechina, the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, they refrained from using the Shem Meforish. Ton Rabban on Arbaim Shana, Kain Churban Abayis, 40 years before the destruction, before the Churban of the Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, there were other simonim also that there was no Hashras HaShechina. Lo Yaya Girl Oila B'Yamin, the girl did not come up when he picked the Kohen Gadol, did the girl of the Sor Hashem, and the Sor Azazel, the Sor Hashem did not come up in his right hand. Lo Yaya Loshen Shel Zahuris Malbit, and the red wool that was tied to the Sor Azazel did not turn to white. The turning it from red to white is a symbol of Kaparas Havainas. It did not turn to white. That nace did not occur. And the ner, the western lamp of the menorah did not remain lit. But prior to that, there was a nace that it had the same oil as the rest of the neres, and it continued burning longer. That nace did not occur anymore. And the doors of the heichal would open on their own as a siman, so that showed as a siman for the enemy to come in. That shows a siman, they opened their own, inviting in foreigners, inviting in the enemies, meaning as a siman for the Churban. The Marshal explains is that was a siman to show that the ones who destroy the Beis HaMikdash, they were invited in by the Rebbeinu Shalom. It wasn't their koyach that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. They were invited in to destroy it by the Rebbeinu Shalom. So the doors would open on their own. And he said to the doors, Heichal, Heichal, why the Heichal? Why do you terrify yourself? Why do you make yourself afraid? I know that ultimately you will be destroyed. And there was already a nevuah from the Navi Zechariah, that would happen. He said, open Levanon, referring to the Beis HaMikdash doors, and the fire will burn your cedars. It was made out of cedar wood, and will burn your cedar, will destroy you. So he said that, I know this is going to happen, but why are you now doing it earlier? Then why are you preceding it? Why are you scaring yourself, so to speak, terrifying everybody? It's going to happen. It will happen on its own. But why already start to open the doors to now show the siman that it's going to happen? Amar Rav Yitzchak ben Tavla, Lam in the Krishma Levanim. So we see for the passage called Levana and Shamal ben of an essential Israel, because it causes the Averis to turn white. It turns to mean Kaparas Avinus. It causes it, the Averis, to turn white, and that's why it's called the Beis HaMikdash. Amar Rav Zuta bar Tuvia, Lama Nikra Shema Yar. Why is the Beis HaMikdash called also Yar? The Beis Yar HaLevonon. It says the house of the forest of Levonon. To teach you Ma Yar Melavlev, just like the forest blooms. The forest has trees that bloom, fruit grows, blossoms grow. Av Beis HaMikdash Melavlev. So to the Beis HaMikdash. The Amar Rav Aishia, he said B'shal Shabbat Shalem Beis HaMikdash, when he built the Beis HaMikdash, and Alta Boy Kol Minei Megadim Shel Zav. He planted all types of fruit trees of gold, fruit trees that would produce, fine fruit trees that would produce fruit of gold. Well, you may see in pairs with my name, and it would produce fruit in its normal cycle at appointed times. Became a sharuach min Hashem's band, when the wind would blow on them, the fruit would fall off. Shenemar yirash kalvanan period. The fruit rustles like that of Levana. So that had the fruit that was made of from gold. And the Kohanim had parnasa from this. They sold it and they had parnasa. They had parnasa from that. But when the Avedachim came to destroy the Beis HaMikdash and they came into the Heichal, Yashu, the trees dried up. The flowers of Levonon was devastated. But also Kadosh Baruch Hu will restore it to us. It says it will parach tifrach, it will blossom abundantly, and will rejoice, and with joyous and glad song. The cover, the glory of Levanon is given to her. So it's given to him. And what is the kvayt of the Levanon? The fruit tree, the trees that had its fruit out of gold. So it is a nevuah that it will be restored to her. Returning now, the Gemara is returning to the Gairolas on the two seir, Masor Lashem, Masor La'azoza. Nosan al Shnei Asirim. So you put the Gairol on the two seirim, on the two goats. Ton Rabbanan. Eser Pamim Master Kohen Gadol Hashem B'Yom. 10 times on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol mentions, says the Shem learns, mentioned Shem, the Shem HaMeforish. The Shem HaMeforish mentioned 10 times that day. Shleish B'Vidu Rishon, 3 times in the Vidu Rishon. As Rashi explains, it's on the par. It says on Hashem Chatasi, on Hashem Kaper, Lifnei Hashem Titar. So it's 3 times on the Vidu Rishon, Shleish B'Vidu Sheni, and 3 times on the Vidu Sheni, similarly the same, so that's 6. Ushleisha B'Sor Mishtaleach, and 3 times on the Sar Mishtaleach is 9. Ve'echad B'Gairolas. When he says on the Gairolas, Ve'echad B'Gairolas, when he designates the one that is the Gairol Hashem, he says L'Hashem Chatos. So he says it 10 times on that day. Ukvar Amar Hashem, and it once happened that the Kohen Gadol said the Shem Hashem V'nishma Koila B'Yerichai, and the sound could be heard all the way to Yerichai. Amar Rabbi Chanam Yerushalayim Yerichai, so parsois from Yerushalayim until Yerichai is a distance of 10 parsois. That's a distance of a parsa is equal to 4 mil. A parsa is equal to 4 mil, and a mil is 2,000 amas, so that's a distance of 8,000 amas. V'tzir daltos ha'heichal, and the sound of the hinges of the doors, the creaking or the squeaking of the hinges of the door of the heichal, nishma b'shmeinet chumish Shabbos, they were able to hear it from a distance of 8 chumish Shabbos. So that is a chum Shabbos is 2,000 amas, so that's a distance of 16,000 amas. And izin shb'yerichai misashas miyericha merechek teiros. The goats in Yerichai would sneeze from the smell, from the reach of the Ketairis. It would cause the goats to sneeze all the way to Yerichai. They could smell it. And Nashim Yerichai and Etzrichel is Basim Merech Ketairis. The perfume from the Ketairis, it reached the distance of Yerichai, so that the women, Nashim Yerichai and Etzrichel is Basim, they didn't have to put on perfume Merech Ketairis. And Kala Shav Yerushalayim, Etzrichel is Kasha Merech Ketairis, and a Kala in Yerushalayim Akala, the Teich Shona explains, Akala has more perfume than an ordinary woman, has greater degree of perfume. Akala, even that has to perfume herself so much, Akala in Yerushalayim didn't have to put on perfume for Reich. A regular, an ordinary woman, and even in Yericha didn't have to have perfume. But Akala, which has a greater degree of perfume, in Yericha she did, but in Yerushalayim she didn't. Amar Rabbi Digloi, Rabbi Loi said, Amar Rabbi Lezer ben Digloi said, Izim hayu la'aba b'harei michvar. He said his father had goats in the mountains of Michvar. Vayim Masechet mirech Ketairos, and they would sneeze from the reach of the Ketairos. Amar Rabbi Barav and Amar Misha ben Korcha Sachli Zak and Echon Pa'amachas Alachti l'Shiloi. He said he once went to Shiloh v'hirachti reich Ketairos mi ben Kaisleho, and I smelled the fragrance between the walls of what was left over from Yerichai. There they did the Avodah. That's when the Mikdash stood in Yerichai, and even after the destruction, and many years later, he could still smell the reich of the Ketairos that were still permeated the walls. Places as a kasha, we said that the Tzir Daltos Heichal Hainishmayim Mishmayim Tchumi Shabbos, which is 16,000 amos. In Maseches Tomid it says from Yerichai they can hear the sound of it till Yerichai, and as we said before that Yerichai is 10 parsois, and 10 parsois is equivalent of 80,000 amos. A parsa is 4 mil, and mil is 2,000 amos. So therefore, it's a distance of 80,000 amos. This makes Machalek. He says Machalek. They heard a noise in Yerichai, but they could not discern it properly. They couldn't discern it and say that it was mamish the Tzir Heichal. A distance of 16,000 amos, they were able to discern that this was the Daltos HaHeichal. In Yerichai, they heard a noise, but not clear enough to know that it was the opening or closing of the Daltos HaHeichal. Places further adds that it says Kalish B'Shalayim did not have to perfume herself. So therefore she was able to have the perfume from the reich of the Ketairos. Taisus has a kasha, the Bayis Shita, that says that holds that even though Kol Mar V'Reach, there's no by Me'ila, but there is an Isser. And Abaya holds that Isser is even for the people who are Oisam Shoimtim B'chutz. So how could they get Hana? This is the Ketairos. How could they get Hana from the Ketairos, which is Kodesh? Taisus answers that when Abaya said there's an Isser Oisam Shoimtim B'chutz, that means that they should not purposely do an action to bring themselves closer to the Reach and to get a Hana from it. But if it happened Memela, if it happened on their own, happened on its own, there's no Isser. So the people living there, if they didn't intentionally try to perfume themselves with it, but Memela, they were automatically, just by being there, they absorbed some of the reich of the Ketairos and they had perfume. So therefore, they were able to get benefit from it. They didn't have to put perfume on from the reich of the Ketairos because of the reich of the Ketairos. Rabbi Yana says, Aliyah's girl kalpi ma'keves. So we said that they had to do the gairolois. So he said that drawing the lots from the box, from the chest, that's ma'akev. But hanocha ain't a ma'keves. But placing it on the goats is not ma'akev. If he did not place it on the goat, he just merely verbally designated, it's still considered that he was Yaitz of the Mitzvah, and the designation applies. The Royechan he said, he said even the drawing of the girl from the box is also not ma'akev. So the Gemara says it's false. I'll leave you the Yehuda, the Amar, who says the Vorim Hanasim b'Big Day Lovin B'chutz le'ma'akev. He says that things that are done, even though they're done by the Kohen Gadol on the Big Day Lovin, but it's not on the Kodesh Kadoshim. It's outside the Kodesh Kadoshim, is not ma'akev. Kuli alma loy pligi loy ma'akev. Everyone would agree, even Rav Yana would agree, that the drawing of the lots is not ma'akev because he holds that this is done b'chutz. It's not ma'akev. He pligi al libid Rav Nechemia. They argue, or libid Rav Nechemia. There they argue. So Rav Nechemia says that anything that he does with the Big Day Love, and even if it's b'chutz, even if it's outside the Kodesh Kadoshim, it's ma'akev. Man damar ma'akev, the one who says ma'akev, Rav Nechemia, we understand it clearly that it's like Rav Nechemia, because he holds it's Big Day Love and it's ma'akev. Man damar loy ma'akev, but the one who says it's not ma'akev, hani milei avoda, hagrola love avoda. He says, even though he says makif, that's where it's an avoida. He says the drawing of the lots is not considered an avoida, and therefore it's not makif, even though it's done the big day loman. Ikadamre, the Mora now has a different interpretation of the machlekes. Ikadamre libidar mechem adamre ma'akva. Another version is that according to Rav Nechami says it's ma'akva. Kol yamaloi played the ma'akva. Everyone will agree, even Rav Yechon will agree that it's ma'akva because it's done by big day loven, and they would consider the drawing of the lots to be an avodah. Ki pligi al libidar Rav Yehuda. The machlekes is according to Rav Yehuda, who says that only things that are done in the Kodesh Kadosh is ma'akva. Now, this is not done in the Kodesh Kadosh. So, man da'amar loy makva, Rav Yehuda. So we readily understand the one who says it's not makiv. We readily understand Rav Yechon because he holds like Rav Yehuda that he holds that it's not makva. Uman da'amar makva, but the one who says it is makva, shiny hacha, the tanabe kra. But it shows, even though generally that would be the case, but here it's specifically by the Gairal, since the pasuk repeats it, so we apply the principle that Shana Lavakasa of Lakiv, the Torah repeats it to teach you that it is Makiv, because the Tanabe Kra, Asher Ola, Trei Zimna, it says twice Asher Ola. So it says it twice in the pasuk Asher Ola. So therefore, it's to teach you, therefore, that it's Makiv, since it repeats it twice. It's teaching you that it's ma'akev, and therefore we apply the principle of that we say shana lava kasav la'akev. The Gemara, through the next Amud, will now ask kashas on this version of the machlekes.